Jaya Radha, too loud, way too loud. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Time out. I don't think you know the song. They should have given you a sheet. They spaced it out. We'll stop. These fans are on. Is this door open? It needs to be open. Hare Krishna. There we go. We're kind of in the middle of the song. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mr. Paramahansa Padujaka Ashtotar Dada Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Padujaka Ashtotar Dada Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Yeah, you can just put the sheet on. This just don't put it on the floor. That's all. He'll give it. He'll take. Okay. I think we're on text 16. Is it? 16. We did this Krishna pretending to be a demon. 13, 14, 15 we did?
Yes, Prabhu, 16.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 25th day of October 2021 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 16 entitled The Divine and Demoniac Natures, text 16 at the bottom of page 629. Aneka Chitta Vibhranta Mohajala Samavataha Prasaktaha Kamabhogeshu Patanti Narakeshu Chao. Aneka chitta vibhranta mohajala samavrataha pasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narakeshu chao. Aneka chitta vibhranta pasakta kama mohajala samavrataha pasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narakeshu chao. Aneka chitta vibhranta mohajala samavrataha pasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narakeshu chao. Aneka chitta vibhranta mohajala samavrataha pasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narakeshu chao. Couldn't be Hari? You want to try it? No? Okay. Go ahead. Aneka chitta vibhranta mohajala samavrataha pasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narakeshu chao. Okay, time out. You don't have a book. You have two books. Give him the soft back, please. Thank you. Back. Okay? I can't give you a page number. 16? 16. No page number. All right. Next, who is chanting? Aneka chitta vibhranta mohajala samavrataha pasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narakeshu chao. Anyone else? Aneka chitta vibhranta mohajala samavrataha pasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narakeshu chao. Dhanavadi. Aneka chitta vibhranta mohajala samavrataha pasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narakeshu chao. Zoomland.
Aneka chitta vibhranta
Aneka chitta vibhranta
mohajala samavritaha
mohajala samavrataha
pasakta kama bhogeshu
pasakta kama bhogeshu
patanti narakeshu chao.
patanti narakeshu chao. Bhaktin Jessica.
Hare Krishna Dravida Prabhu.
Hari Bol.
Aneka chitta vibhranta
Aneka chitta vibhranta
mohajala samavrataha
mohajala samavrataha
prasakta kama bhogeshu
pasakta kama bhogeshu
patanti narakeshu chao.
patanti narakeshu chao. Aneka, numerous, chitta by anxieties, vibhranta perplexed, moha of illusions, jala by a network, samavritaha surrounded, pasaktaha attached, kama bhogeshu to sense gratification, patanti they glide down, narake into hell, ashuchao unclean. Translation. Thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell. Who is the they? The demons. Purport. The demoniac man knows no limit to his desire to acquire money. That is unlimited. He thinks only of how much assessment he has just now and schemes to engage that stock of wealth further and further. For that reason, he does not hesitate to act in any sinful way and so deals in the black market for illegal gratification. He is enamored by the possessions he has already, such as land, family, house, and bank balance, and he is always planning to improve them. He believes in his own strength, and he does not know that whatever he is gaining is due to his past good deeds. He is given an opportunity to accumulate such things, but he has no conception of past causes. He simply thinks that all his massive wealth is due to his own endeavor. A demoniac person believes in the strength of his personal work, not in the law of karma. According to the law of karma, a man takes his birth in a high family or becomes rich or very well educated or very beautiful because of good work in the past. The demoniac think that all these things are accidental and due to the strength of one's personal ability. They do not sense any arrangement behind all the varieties of people, beauty, and education. Anyone who comes into competition with such a demoniac man is his enemy. There are many demoniac people, and each is enemy to the others. This enmity becomes more and more deep between persons, then between families, then between societies, and at last between nations. Therefore, there is constant strife, war, and enmity all over the world. Each demoniac person thinks that he can live at the sacrifice of all others. Generally, a demoniac person thinks of himself as the supreme God. And a demoniac preacher tells his followers, "Why are you seeking God elsewhere? You are all yourselves God. Whatever you like, you can do. Don't believe in God. Throw away God. God is dead." These are the demoniac's preachings. Although the demoniac person sees others equally rich and influential, or even more so, he thinks that no one is richer than he and that no one is more influential than he. As far as promotion to the higher planetary system is concerned, he does not believe in performing yajnas or sacrifices. Demons think that they will manufacture their own process of yajna and prepare some machine by which they will be able to reach any higher planet. The best example of such a demoniac man was Ravana. He offered a program to the people by which he would prepare a staircase so that anyone could reach the heavenly planets without performing sacrifices, such as are prescribed in the Vedas. Similarly, in the present age, such demoniac men are striving to reach the higher planetary systems by mechanical arrangements. These are examples of bewilderment. The result is that, without their knowledge, they are gliding toward hell. Here the Sanskrit word moha jala is very significant. Jala means a net. Like fish caught in a net, they have no way to come out. Om jnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshu unmidatamena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, in the previous verse, Krishna is taking the role of the demon, in the sense he's speaking like a demon. And he says, the demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. Now, in the purport, Prabhupada explains that they neglect sacrifices. They reject the Vedas and the prescribed means of material advancement, which has so many restrictions. The idea is that there are going to be people who are in this mode of passion. And so the Vedic culture and the Vedas themselves, they try to direct that passion, at least in a less vicious and evil way, less destructive for society as a whole. So you have various sacrifices, you have various restrictions, even meat eating. There's a prescription to do it if you have to eat meat, and you have to offer the meat. You have to say certain mantras. The word for meat is mangsa. Prabhupada pointed out mangsa means me, you, or I think me, he, or something. And the import is that when you eat some meat and you're chanting these mantras and you're slaughtering it yourself, you're understanding, oh, this very animal that I'm killing is one day going to be able to kill me. And so that should give one pause. Do I really want that? In other words, the idea is that you're confronted with the reality of karma. is that if nothing goes unnoticed, is that this is, we've been reading here that Krishna is within the heart of everyone. He knows everything that's going on. And there is a set of rules and regulations, especially when it comes to the idea or comes to the phenomenon of human beings who have the intelligence to know better, are not simply controlled by instinct, ignore that higher intelligence, bury their conscience, and perform all kinds of vicious activities. Mass animal slaughter, and that also goes to human slaughter, all for the sake of the bottom line, to be, just to put it as short as possible. And actually, when I was reading this, I was thinking, well, this sounds a little bit like capitalism, doesn't it? How much do I help today? How can I invest it and have more? Or more than capitalism, mafia is illegal. Gang violence. No, I have so much more now, and this person is competing with me. So how can I crush him, physically or by some illegal means? Isn't it? Once that passion mode and ignorance mode takes over your heart, it squeezes out the human qualities of empathy and sympathy and all these different things. In other words, in order to really succeed in the dog-eat-dog world, you have to become a dog. Otherwise, you get eaten up, isn't it? So the more that everything devolves into this materialistic competition for material wealth and influence and all the different things, the more people become demoniac. And what is this age? This age is known as the age of Kali. And it's described like that in the 12th canto. It's described in more detail how all of the finer sentiments of human society. Prabhupada speaks about this a lot in the first canto, in the purports. Because Parikshit Maharaj is confronted with Kali personified having intruded into the kingdom. And he's tormenting a bull and a cow there. The bull represents the Dharma, and the cow represents the earth. And the Kali and his followers are just going to destroy Dharma and exploit the earth and exploit all the animals and create havoc. So Parikshit is trying to hold it back. He's a descendant of Arjuna. He's a Rajarshi. Rajarshi means a king, a leader who's also a sage, who knows the principles of Dharma and who follows them. In other words, a devotee. So Kali Yuga is an age when you don't see that so much. And now, as we speak, what are the results of this mentality? We can see it all around us. Not just in the social breakdown and all these things, but in the very weather, the climate change. It's caused by consuming and pouring out these fossil fuels, carbon dioxide, into the air. It's science, right? And some of you may not believe that. I don't know. But you can see the storms. As I speak, there's what they call, I never heard of this before, a cyclone bomb attacking the northern state where we sit here. Now it's drizzling here. San Diego is lucky. But up north, it's huge flooding and big, massive rains going on. And then also, either it's this weekend, coming weekend is coming right up, a meeting, another meeting in Glasgow. Is that in Ireland or Scotland somewhere? On climate change. But what do you have? You have these two forces going on. The leaders are meeting, but they're all in thrall to the money men, the millions and billionaires in the home who are invested in the fossil fuels, invested in exploiting the earth, invested in things going on as they are. Even though it's just obviously destroying the earth. And their own grandchildren, or children even, and you have to speak of grandchildren, are going to be suffering. But, maintain the billions and the trillions of dollars, That's exactly what Krishna is speaking about. So much wealth do I have today. He's my enemy. I'll kill him, or at least I'll arrest him. And in this way, all of that mode of passion, it becomes very extreme when it's solidified in institutions like the banks and the armies and all of these different things. And that's the age we live in. So what's the countervailing force for that? Krishna consciousness. you can see what are the qualities of a devotee that are exactly opposite to this. First of all, you try to live as simply as possible. Atyahara priyasascha. If you collect more than necessary, that's going to squeeze away your devotion, right? The whole idea is a basic principle. Isha vasavedam sarvam, the very first mantra after the invocation of the Isha Upanishad. Everything belongs to God. And if that's true and you believe it, then you should try to employ as much of that energy of God in God's service. And you're entitled to what you need to maintain a decent living, but not this exploitation, amassing billions of dollars and enslaving people and all of this. That's the result of demoniac mentality that's taken over the earth. So this is a very sobering chapter, because we can see, I like to tell this story, when I first read the Bhagavad Gita, I wasn't a devotee, I was just interested in philosophy, and this is one of the books, many books I read. So as soon as I read this chapter, I said, I got those qualities. At least latent, I wasn't a big timer, millions of dollars. But I could see that those qualities are normal, isn't it? I mean, but Krishna's making it very clear that these qualities lead to self-destruction, the hellish society. Right, we don't have to wait to go to hell. We can just make this society hellish. Oh my God, there's so many places on the earth that are as bad as what we read in the end of the fifth canto. We're coming up now, these descriptions. So the whole idea is that we, as human beings, as souls, again we come back to that verse in the 13th chapter. Purushak pakatisto hi bhunkte pakati jan gunan karanang gunasangasa sadasa yoni janmashi. That the living entity, Purusha, in the material world, prakriti, within material nature, experiences the results of how he associates with the modes of nature. As human beings, we have higher intelligence. And if we're fortunate enough to learn the truth, we can see, I may do this and go in this direction, try to enjoy this or exploit this, but there'll be a very serious reaction. And the reaction will be much worse and more extreme than the little pleasure that I enjoy. This is the nature of Maya. She induces you to try to enjoy, and there's some enjoyment there, but it's always temporary. It's always flickering. And the result of that can be absolutely horrendous. You may lose your human form of life. Oh, who is that? Somebody's got a phone going on. Well, if you got to hear a ringtone, I guess that could have been a lot worse. Is that yours? Can you just take it out? Hare Krishna. I guess we should start out. Please turn your cell phones off or put them on silent.
Please take your cell phones out if you have them. Put them on silent or turn them off.
Yeah. So the implications of not understanding what different associations do and how to deal with the modes of nature is that you remain in this moha jala. Moha jala means the net of illusion. You see? Jala means water, but jala means net. Aneka chitta vibranta. What's the verse we read? Numerous anxieties. Aneka means unlimited. Vibranta, perplexed by the anxieties. These are the demons. They can have millions of dollars or billions of dollars, but it's ill-gotten gains. And then there's all those other people who you stepped on in order to get the money. They're going to try to get back at you, or their friends are, or their sons are, or, you know what I mean? So you're creating enemies. So that creates tremendous amount of anxiety. This is one of the wonderful things, the quality of a devotee. Let's contrast the quality of a sadhu, which is a better known term even, with these demons. So I don't know if you remember, there's a series of 8 verses in the 3rd canto spoken by Kapila Lord Kapila, describing the benefits of associating with sadhus. He starts out, Prasangam madadam pashamatmana kavayo vidu saesha sadhu sukato moksha dwaram apavratam. you may remember, this opening the door to liberation. We just heard that. Rishabdev also had the idea, associating with sadhus or mahatmas, the same idea. So he said prasangam. Prasangam means very strong attachment, which he compares to very powerful ropes that the heart is bound by to this material world. You know, so many personal attachments, attachment to name and fame, to position, to experiences, whatever. So those we've cultivated over lifetimes, and this lifetime also. So these are prasangama janampasham atmana kavayovadu. The soul, the atma, every learned person knows that that same attachment has to be redirected from material things to sadhus. And then the question, well, who is the sadhu? He describes in the next verse. Just the opposite of what we've been reading. Tatikshava karunika suridak sarvadehinam ajata shatravat shanta sadhavak sadhabhushana. These are like ornaments on a sadhu, these qualities. The first is tolerance. That's the last quality you'll find in the demons. Any insult, perceived or even imaginary, will cause tremendous anger and rage. Just the opposite. And karunika, where's the mercy? Just the opposite. Cruelty, for the demons. Suridak sarvadehinam, right. The best friend of every living entity. You won't find that in the demons. Just the opposite. Enemy of every living entity, except his friends, his associates, his allies, Ajata Shatavak. He has no enmity toward anyone. Just the opposite of what we just read. Sadhavak sadhabhushana. Sadhavak, Prabhupada says, means following the Shastra. The last thing the demons want to know is there's some rules and regulations I have to follow, right? So what brings about this? Devotion to Krishna. What is it? How do the sadhus get to be sadhus? Maya ananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yedvidham. By rendering service to me. This is Kapila Dev speaking. Lord Kapila Dev is an incarnation of Krishna. It says, my ananyena bhavena, very one-pointed, focused devotion to me, without deviation. Bhaktim kurvanti yedvidham, firmly determined. And then he says, matkrates chaktas karmanas chaktas swajanabandhava. That for my sake, they'll give up any activity that's out of the realm of devotional service. And even relations with their friends and relatives, if they're impediments to the devotion. So all of these are in complete contrast with the demons. But what one of the values is, one of the clearly, even in our own case, we can, to the degree that we're following nicely, we can feel a sense of peace, even in a world of turmoil. Personally, we can feel that there's a sense of peace because I'm with Krishna. I'm on the path. I'm not cultivating more and more attachments that are causing me all this anxiety, but I'm actually getting free of material attachments, which is the foundation of peace. Lord Chaitanya spoke this famous verse. It says, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataeva Shanta. You know this one? You will soon. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sukhaliya Shanta. So he says, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama, the real devotee is free of ardent material desires, Nishkama. Therefore he's peaceful. It's right out of the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter. And Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sukhaliya Shanta. He has three categories of persons who are full of kama, full of material desires. He called them kamis. Not kamis, but kamis. And what category? First is bhukti. Bhukti kami. Those are the vast majority. Ordinary sense gratification. It's gross and subtle. All the entertainments, your mind is filled with all these things. It's just total material. So you can't be peaceful, You may be a little distracted and for some time, but then that ends, and then where's all the excitement? Now what? And I just wasted so much time, and got agitated, because you're looking at material things, So that's one category, huge category, 99.99%. But then you have those who want liberation, impersonal liberation. That's also a type of material desire. All it means is that Prabhupada is so perspicacious, very sharp. Even our ordinary desires should just minimize material suffering. This is the species of liberation. Liberation just means I want to get free of all the suffering, even birth, old age, disease, and death, which is and what to speak of the threefold miseries. Then I'll be happy. You see, it's a negative thing. It's not that I'm going to strive to serve others or serve Krishna, but I will be free of misery. And what will be left? I'll just be blissfully unmiserable. There's no positive end to it. But that's a kind of karma for one's own self. And then there's the yogis, those who meditate, I once met it was just a kid. I was also a kid. I was 23, he was like 19. I was standing online waiting to see a bogus yogi. This is a long time ago. I won't mention any names. But you could go in for $15. You could get darshan. If you wanted to spend $25, you could get initiated. I swear to God. Anyway, so he was dressed as a yogi. What he thought was a yogi, but he wasn't an ordinary dress. He had some kind of white thing on, isn't it? And he was telling everyone how he was practicing pranayama, and he was starting to develop these powers, and it was just childish, really. But that same attitude is there for the serious yogis, who are just looking to how, all right, have I got? Can I astral travel now? Let me give it a shot, Oh, I have to do a little more pranayama, They said, and they actually can develop the cities. You can actually, walk on water. You can become smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest. There's a series of cities. You can imagine if we didn't have any idea of Krishna consciousness, and that was the whole thing. You go, you practice this, you perform these severe austerities, and this is how you meditate, and this is how you breathe, and then you'll be able to get these powers. And with those powers, one of them is you can grab anything from anywhere. When I first heard of that, I said, yeah, Fort Knox. All right. They have all the gold. It's totally material, obviously. So, Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhi, Kamis, Sakali, Ashanta. They're never peaceful. We have so many examples of Vishwamitra Muni, who was, so powerful, and Indra became envious. Because he's more or less in the mode of passion, even though he's a devotee, he's got an important post, but he falls into that, right? Says, oh no, he may try to get my post, so he sends Menaka down to seduce him. He's got his eyes closed, so she's wearing these ankle bells and walking. What's that? Whoa, this is goddess, angel come down. He had no, he wasn't chanting Hare Krishna, he wasn't Haridas Thakur. He had no, he became attracted and, gone. So the idea is that to become peaceful, you have to become free of material desires. But you can't become free of desires. You have to become free of material desires, and one desire has to be, let me serve God. Let me serve humanity. By giving them God, this is what they need. They need bhakti, they need Krishna consciousness, they need the holy name, they need prasadam, they need the books. All these things that have been given to us that can turn your mind toward saintly qualities, which is the only hope for the society. Otherwise, you're just going to have a bunch of animals clawing at each other. And they're going to have nuclear weapons. I was mentioning that last night. So this is very pertinent to us, because what we read here is, unfortunately, these predominant qualities of what we see in the world. Most people are just striving to make it in society. But without better guidance, they develop some of these qualities, and they're victimized by strong people who have these qualities. So at the end of this chapter, we're coming up near the end now, he describes the result of this and how one can escape it, how we can escape from this, falling into this demoniac control. Okay, should we go on? Okay. Text 17. Atmasambhavata stabdha dhanaman madanvitaha yajante nama yagyaiste dambena vidipurvakam. Notice that word damba again. This is the third time we've seen it. Self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige. They sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules or regulations. Purport. Thinking themselves all in all, not caring for any authority or scripture, the demoniac sometimes perform so-called religious or sacrificial rites. And since they do not believe in authority, they are very impudent. This is due to illusion caused by accumulating some wealth and false prestige. Sometimes such demons take up the role of preacher, mislead the people, and become known as religious reformers or as incarnations of God. They make a show of performing sacrifices, or they worship the demigods, or manufacture their own god. Common men advertise them as God and worship them, and by the foolish they are considered advanced in principles of religion or in the principles of spiritual knowledge. They take the dress of the renounced order of life and engage in all nonsense in that dress. Actually, there are so many restrictions for one who has renounced the world. The demons, however, do not care for such restrictions. They think that whatever path one can create is one's own path. There is no such thing as standard path one has to follow. The word avidipurvakam meaning a disregard for the rules and regulations is especially stressed here. These things are always due to ignorance and illusion. So, again, just focus a minute with me on this word damba. Dambena. You see that? Dambena? Out of pride. And avidipurvakam. The pride, it's false pride, and they want to be seen as religious. Because that can be good for business, basically. You know? And so they'll perform yajnas in name only. There's no real belief in it, even any faith. But it looks good. And so let me pretend to be religious, and it can also be very lucrative. You know, so there's a certain class that will do that. Atmasambhavata, very complacent. They don't aspire to improve themselves. They think they're perfect already. Dhana mana madanvata. Because of wealth, they become very proud. In other words, there's a certain power that comes with wealth. You can buy politicians. You know, you can control the government if you have enough wealth. This happens often, even in our own country. It may happen sometimes. I think it might have happened. But and so you become proud that you have this energy in the form of money by which you can do so many things, and it goes to your head, and you become intoxicated. And they perform these sacrifices in name only. They want to be seen as religious, but they don't really believe. Because it's counter to their whole ethos, which is that I'm in control. I'm kind of a little god, you know. And in order to really feel in control, you have to convince yourself there is no God above me. Because the last thing they want to know, that they want to think or believe, is that I'm digging myself a big hole here and I'm going to go to hell. Actually, I'm on top of the world, you know. So there's a great impetus not to believe, and they convince themselves there's no one in control. You read the Bhagavad Gita. What was the last thing that Hiranyakashipu wanted to hear? That there was a God above him, right? That was, I mean, he was so covered over. His very name, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranya's gold. His whole idea was, control as much as possible, and the comforts that come with it. Hiranyakashipu, soft bed companion, that whole thing. So he's the ideal archetypal demon. Archetypal. Ravana is another one. And he was so stupid and so uncontrolled that he once raped some goddess who had some power or had someone behind her, and she was able to curse him. If you do it to anyone else, you'll die. So that's why he couldn't take Sita by force. But this is like the lowest animal. There's no control there. And his whole city was made of gold, ostentatious. Like now they buy yachts. They build yachts, $200 million yachts. I mean, it's obscene. All of this flying out into the space, $1 billion a shot, whatever it costs. Such a waste of money. Can you imagine how many nice temples we could build for that? How we could really help people? So much prasadam distribution. Or with one fraction of that. Those are the demons. They're very famous, but they're demons, wasting God's energy. thinking they can fly to Mars or whatever, you know. So this is exactly mentioned here. And this, you know, what happens to all the demons? Eventually they're killed, either directly by Krishna. Today's demons, they don't really merit that. So it usually takes old age, or some other demon comes along, chops them down, and then mass. Or the masses themselves rise up and they dethrone them. Somehow or other they're finished. And who knows, the sufferings. We'll read about that in a few weeks when we come to the end of the 5th canto. You know, there is a infallible justice. We once put together a book called The Laws of Nature and Infallible Justice. I don't know if they distribute it anymore, but part of it came from Ishopanishad, and we took from Kapila Dev's teachings. And that's really, it's all in the title. That the laws of nature and the laws of God, ultimately, you're bound up by them. You can't escape. The law of karma. The law of karma. What you do comes back. Even it's a popular saying, what goes around comes around. Now that's usually meant, you know, if you do something bad, it'll come back to you, so don't do it, you know. Most people, oh, let me do good, and then it'll come back to me. No, most people, you know. So these are the laws that are there, and if we know them, then we can obey them, and for our own good. Even on the material level, Prabhupada would always give the example. You know, he himself, he was in an accident in Mauritius, because some tourist was driving on the wrong side of the road. They came from the country. I mean, Prabhupada it was a head-on collision. Luckily, they weren't going that fast. And Prabhupada braced himself before the collision came, like he was foreseeing it. And he had minor injuries. Luckily, it was just minor. But when you go to a country, it's your responsibility to find out the laws that are prevailing there. If you violate one of them, you come before the judge, well, Judge, I just came from the United States. You know, we drive on the other side of the street. Sorry, we had an accident. 3 people died, you know. Sorry, you're, you know, manslaughter. You're going to jail for a long time. So we have come to this world. It is our responsibility, and it's for our own benefit, to understand the laws that are enforced by a higher authority. That's what laws means. And those laws are Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Vedas. So the teachers of those are our great friends, even if it may go against what, you know, we really want to do or what we used to believe. The whole idea is that for our own benefit, we need to know the laws and to follow them. And that's the beginning of Krishna consciousness. You know the law of karma. What is real dharma? Arjuna was concerned because he was confused about dharma. Dharma, what does he say? Karpanya dosho pahata Swabhava, Prichami Tvam Dharma Samuda Cheta. My consciousness is bewildered about what real Dharma, the right thing to do is. This is a Vedic culture. You want to do the right thing, because if you do the wrong thing, you're going to suffer and make others suffer. We don't want that, you know. So that Dharma is what Krishna consciousness is all about, what this Bhagavad Gita is all about. Krishna says, I come when their Dharma becomes confused. Yadaya dahi dharma sa glana bhavati bharata. Am I wrong here? Most Indians learn that when they're children, that particular verse. Did you know it when you were a kid? Yadaya dahi dharmasya, right? Yeah. That's when Krishna, you know, right? You forgot though, right? I'm just kidding. So that's how important Dharma is. Krishna comes in order to reestablish Dharma, to cut down the adharmis, the demons, right? And to protect the devotees and help them flourish. So we want to be on the side of right and good and wholesomeness and uplift, you know. Otherwise we're doomed. We don't want to be victimized by the demons. You know, we certainly don't want to be demons. And we want to be on the side of the force of good for our own benefit and for everyone else's benefit. So that's what's happening here. Dambena avadipurvakam. There's hypocrisy, deceit, lying. It's going on everywhere, all over the place. You know, all of this advertising is lying. They're telling you what they think you want to hear, so they'll buy their product. You know, and politicians everywhere. It's all based on a lie. We are this body. Try to enjoy it. You know, that's the real big lie, the foundation of all other big lies. So we're interested in the absolute truth, the actual truth of the matter. Then we can act on for our benefit and for the benefit of all others. All right, moving along. One more. Unless we have any questions. Dhanavari? No. Okay. Zoom land? Big Eye Krishna must be taking a nap. Let's do one more. Text 18. Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodham cha sangshitaha mamatma padadeheshu pradvishanto bisuyakaha. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. Purport. A demoniac person, being always against God's supremacy, does not like to believe in the Scriptures. He is envious of both the Scriptures and the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is caused by his so-called prestige and his accumulation of wealth and strength. He does not know that the present life is a preparation for the next life. Not knowing this, he is actually envious of his own self, as well as of others. He commits violence on other bodies and on his own. He does not care for the supreme control of the personality of Godhead because he has no knowledge. Being envious of the Scriptures and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he puts forward false arguments against the existence of God and denies the scriptural authority. He thinks himself independent and powerful in every action. He thinks that since no one can equal him in strength, power, or wealth, he can act in any way and no one can stop him. If he has an enemy who might check the advancement of his sensual activities, he makes plans to cut him down by his own power. So this is the power of the modes of nature. It can lead you to believe and convince yourself of things that are directly contrary to the truth, to the facts. And we're living in a world like that now, where there's an advantage to getting people to believe something that's against the truth. I mean, again, you go back to the principle of advertising. You know, they try to create a product that looks, enticing and inviting, but which is always less than what it's advertised to be, and convince people to buy it. It'll make you happy. And that's based on the big lie that by enjoying your senses in this world, you can be happy. But we know that that's not true from experience and from the Shastra. Again, back to one of my favorite verses. Yehi sangsparshaja boga, dukkha yonaya evate. Ajantamantan konteya, nateshu ramate buddha. We need to try to become Buddha. It means wise or intelligent. And this verse says that the pleasures that come from the contact of the senses with the sense objects are themselves the sources of misery. Those pleasures are the sources of your misery. And unfortunately, the misery can be 20, 30, 100 times worse than the pleasures. It doesn't balance out evenly. And not only that, but they're temporary. It has a beginning and an end. And for these reasons, the wise do not delight in these pleasures. But that doesn't mean they become dead stones and try to, not enjoy. They enjoy real pleasure, as he says in the previous verse. Bayasparshesu asaktatma vindatyatma niyat sukham sab brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Bayasparshesu means the contact of the senses with their sense objects. They all have the sensual one. Asaktatma. You're not attracted to that. Enjoying the pleasure within. We may not realize it, but when we chant Hare Krishna and we enjoy some Krishna conscious pleasure, we're contacting the Super Soul. We're contacting Krishna within the heart. And that's where the pleasure is coming from. It's not coming from just the senses. So, Atma Yaksukam Sab Brahma Yoga Yuktatma, linked up to Brahman, the Supreme Brahman is Krishna, through yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Sukhamakshayam Ashnade. He enjoys unbreakable happiness, not the temporary flickering happiness of the senses. And in the purport, there's a wonderful verse quoted. He says, Ramante yogino anante satyanande chiratmani Iti Rama Padenasu Padam Brahma Vadiyate. The yogis, the bhakti yogis, they enjoy unlimited happiness. Anante means without end, beginning and end. Just the opposite of flickering sense gratification. Ramante yogino anante satyananda chidatmani. This is truly ananda, a spiritual happiness, chidatmani. And therefore, this is really, and therefore the supreme Brahman is known as Rama. Rama means spiritual. Krishna as the reservoir of all pleasure. You know, it can also mean Ram, Balaram, or Ramchandra, none different. They're all expansive. So these names, and just one more point. The word Krishna. There's a nice verse. This is a far out verse. What does Krishna mean? And it's not just what it means. It's also the effect on your consciousness from uttering it and hearing it. Krishna bhuvachaka sabdo nashtanir vativachaka tayor aikam tulyami. Do you know this one? No. Krishna itchabidiyate. I forgot one word there. But what it means is that the syllable Krish is the sum total of all attractiveness. And the nash, the na, is the spiritual pleasure. Spiritual pleasure. And you put it together, you join those two, and you get the Supreme Brahman. That's a Todaraikam Param Brahma, Krishna Itchabidiyate. You have the name Krishna. So this is the whole idea, is that Krishna has expanded through the sound of his name. He's present there. And he can attract us, he's the most attractive, and bestow the highest spiritual pleasure. By absorbing ourselves in the name Krishna, by hearing and serving, glorifying, then we contact that source of pleasure. And the flickering sense pleasure goes away. And you can acquire the qualities of a real sadhu, you know, which is tolerant, compassionate. You want to give others a holy name in the books in Krishna consciousness, because they're God brothers. Everyone we belong to the same family. We're all spirit souls, sons of Krishna, sons and daughters. So this is the lesson of this chapter. This is where we don't want to go. We don't want to develop these qualities and want to root them out in ourselves and give others a chance to also reform and become purified of these demonic qualities. But it's sobering because we see it all around us. Any final comments or questions? Okay. We will resume tomorrow with text 19. Thank you very much for your attention. That includes Zoomland. Hare Krishna.